Good day. Hi, my name's Scott Weaver. I'm a 30-year Army veteran, husband, grandfather, educator, and currently pursuing an educational doctorate in adult education and organizational psychology through Aspen University. As part of this program, I've asked to provide a description uh, of what neuroscience is, what its emergence has been over the last 50 years, how does it relate to leadership, and how could the use of neuroscience and neuro leadership benefit my current work as an educator? Well, first of all, neuroscience, or more particularly behavioral neuroscience, is the study of how a person's brain responds to their physical, logical, or emotional environment. As we go through our lives and we respond to people, places, and things, uh, engagements, emotional responses, that drives and directly influences our brain on how we will choose to respond to those things and what our behavior will be. Neuro leadership is an extension of that. It is an extension of how, as a potential leader, my actions within an organization, based on my responses to my environment, can influence that organization, or perhaps how my appropriate responses to these type of engagements can be used to directly influence my subordinates and help the organization as a whole. Well, first of all, we need to talk about the technology that's led to this role of behavioral neuroscience. And it all basically begins with the development of magnetic resonance imaging. In 1958, two scientists, Felix Bloch and Edward Purcell, received the Nobel Prize for Science with regards to MRI due to their independent research, and they both were credited with discovering the technology and the physics associated with MRI in the late 1940s. Throughout the third quarter of the 20th century, scientists continually used our MRI capabilities to doing chemical and physical molecular analysis. And this continued on until the late 1970s, in which X-ray, CT, and MRI technology was successfully fused and approved for human testing. Last but not least, functional functional MRI, was developed to map the functions of various regions of the human brain in the 1980s. This began the bridge into functional neuroscience or functional behavioral neuroscience. So, what is functional MRI? It allows for the mapping of physical, biochemical, electrical charges of the human brain that happen at the microbiological level, things that cannot be seen with the human eye, in response to our physical, logical, and emotional states. Many things can be used to trigger these states. Some of the experiments are basically done with photographs. For example, a nice box of fluffy kittens might bring on a certain response to an individual, an emotional response, comfort, care, maternal instincts that might drive imagery in the brain, trigger specific parts of the brain to um, respond, thereby driving our response, whether it might be a change in our heart rate, um, thoughts, memories of our past, etc., and so forth. This might be a very positive experience. Another picture that might drive a different experience would be from the top of the Sears Tower in Chicago. Now, if no one may have ever been there before, but on the 70th floor, there is this glass catwalk that you could step out and almost stand in free air looking down. Some people, for no logical reason, might be scared of heights, or from their perspective, being scared of heights might be perfectly logical. But this also would trigger a different set of responses in the brain that would then become then could be respond both in how you choose to talk with people, your behavior, so on and so forth. And some things are really tied into our memories. Holidays, events will leave you something that may be a little more positive. So ultimately, neuroscience, emotional intelligence, and neural leadership are banded together. And choose to use Maslow's hierarchy of needs as a way to describe how these nest together and lead us toward from meeting the individual needs of ourselves and the people we work with to our full and our counterpart self-actualization. So first and foremost, Maslow identifies that the individuals have a first and foremost need, and the human brain, according to the neuroscientist, has an immediate demand and desire for physical security and safety. This gets replicated in organizations through shared trust and commitment. As we move from the basic needs to the psychological needs, we can see where this expands as our desires move from basically survival to how we fit in society, that we are treated fairly and with respect. And once again, there are strong neuroscience indicators found through MRI study that these things are in demand. It's not just something that politically happens in the streets, but people demand justice and they expect empathy from others. It validates their existence and makes them feel both wanted and needed and respected. And last but not least, once we move to this thing that we are individually respected by members of a team, it creates opportunities for us to step forward, rise to the occasion, much like cream floats to the top, gain recognition and reward. And while recognition and reward may be external motivators, the internal motivators, such as independence to do what we want to do, think what we want to think, and potentially lead others, further strengthens our position towards self-actualization. Within my current work environment, as an adult educator in the military, uh, this is interesting that how neural leadership and experiential learning, according to Kolb's experiential learning theory, seem to nest together. For example, it is always necessary to have positive instructors and student and or leader and follower exchanges or engagements. As this nests with the experiential learning model at the concrete experience level, we can see where by engaging with students, instructors are able to establish a common purpose through these shared and concrete experiences. We find things in common. They may be anything as innocuous as enjoying sports, or having been deployed to the same places multiple times, or knowing common people. But all these provide us a common experience to go back for future instruction and relate something in the past that we can share with. As an individual 55 years old, this becomes very important because a lot of the metaphors and stories of my youth no longer apply to generations X, Y, and or Z. And so using the right metaphors, the right analogies when we teach becomes very important. The next step leads to reflective observation, and that focuses more on how we develop mutual respect. We've gone to this point where we have a shared concrete experience, but now we also want to share empathy through open discourse and discussion. This lets us also discuss about what's important to us now with regards to learning and education. Why are the learning objectives that we have now important for us now, and how are they going to be important for us in the future? How might we apply them, and how might they be applied, and they may not be applicable to situations we might see in the future. The next step is to further expand on these relationships by practicing discipline, creativity, and teamwork in order to develop new concepts. According to Kolb, this is described as abstract conceptualization. And once again, this also aligns with the third and fourth tiers of Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the search for social recognition, participation, and identity within this social group, and how these things merge together in the developing of new concepts and shared ideas. Then we continue to expand on this teamwork as we move toward active experimentation. And this is where we've gone to some deliberate efforts in order to bring people together to create a team. But in active experimentation, the purpose of experimentation is to prove that our concepts and theories are wrong. And so we go through these and we test them against different scenarios. We challenge the people in the group to find things that are wrong with their concepts and to test their validity. And ultimately, we may determine that these concepts are either valid or invalid. They may be positive or negative. But ultimately, good learning means that we're able to take this in a positive way, even take things that are negative, using empathy, reflection, and emotional intelligence, and be able to apply these negative aspects in a positive way and turning them back into a concrete experience that'll lead to personal and organizational growth. I hope this description of and this description of neuroscience, neuro leadership, was helpful for you. I know in doing it, it has helped me better understand my role as an instructor and also that of a student. Thank you very much.